Hey cousins, this is Lethabo.
And this is Mokgadi.
And you're listening to What My Cousin Said. So, cuz,
Hey.
we are here, we are back. Thank you guys so much for watching our previous episodes and subscribing, liking, sharing the comments. We really, really love the feedback and continue to give us feedback, you know. I think it's very important for us to make sure that we are on the same page with you guys as our cousins. And yeah, thank you so much. Continue to subscribe, like, comment, email us, and do the whole thing. And cuz, how are you doing? What's up, Dinsang?
I'm also thankful,
Yeah.
like you're saying. So also thankful that everybody's been watching and that they were forgiving.
Of course.
Yeah, of the time that we
Your
disappeared.
big hearts.
You know,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that as well. And then also the feedback that they give us and hore, like shout out, thank you. We hear that the sound is better, the visuals are better. So I appreciate that. It's just gonna keep us doing bigger and better.
Yes.
But how am I doing?
Yes.
I'm good.
You look good.
Thanks. I'm good. So, it's been like a couple of weeks. Last time we were talking about settling into the new year, getting into it, whatever. I feel like as much as we're still in Jan, well, by the time you see this, it'll be Feb. But anyway, recording, we're still in Jan. I'm settling. You know, I'm settling into this year. It feels like a lot more calm. I feel like I'm waiting for like a lot of good.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm waiting for there's something in the
calm,
air, you
yeah.
know. So I'm waiting for something amazing to happen. I feel like, you know, there's a lot coming, but because of that, I feel like I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
I'm in a good space. How are you doing?
I think I would like to say the same. I've got a lot of peace around myself. I've been at home, so I've been taking a break from the gym. So I'm definitely anxious because I'm not going to the gym. However, I think I'm pretty excited about the year. It's starting on a good note, on a peaceful note, and I think that's why I'm happy.
Yeah.
So pila, I'm good. I'm exceptional.
Yeah, exceptional.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe let's get into what we're going to talk about
100%.
today. So just from some of the comments that we got from the previous episode, people said that they love that we touched on just some of the stuff that we've done to reflect. Lethabo talked about shadow work, right? That's what it's called.
Yes, shadow work.
Yeah, so she talked about shadow work, and they were just interested to know, okay, how did we get to a point in our lives where we feel like, not to say we're together, but how did we become so self-aware?
100%.
You know? So from my end, when we talked about this, there was a time during COVID, I think 2020, a friend of mine, she recommended guided meditation, right? So I tried this in 2020, and pretty much what the big principle was about it is that certain things are just, one, not that deep, but then also just helping you to reflect on your life from as far back as you could remember, you know? So to help you understand what is actually informing some of the feelings, some of the attitudes, your personality. So it really taught me how to go that far back. So I think I'm looking forward to sharing that, and to, if you want to do it on your end, see how you do that, like, reflection process.
I think it's so interesting that you say that, because I think in 2020, life was so different. You were more immune to try new things. And I think that is just the life that we should take. Try new things, take step backs, you know, take a look back and think about yourself, things that you've gone through, those types of things. So what would you say? Should we get into asking each other about, you know, some of the things that, like, the pivotal moments in our lives that we have gone through?
Yeah, so I think
In different stages.
Yeah, in different stages.
Yes.
So how we've decided to structure this is to just split it into 3, right? So your childhood, so pre your teens, you know, we're talking, you can remember from about 3-4 years old. So
Yes.
from between there to like 12 years old. And then teens, obviously like the actual teens. And then the last one would be where we are right now in our 20s. And what did we feel like were the big moments that pretty much determined or really informed that part or that stage of your life.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I can
Do you
go
wanna
first.
go first? Yeah, cool.
Definitely. I think
Childhood, right?
my childhood, you know, it's so interesting, right? When I think about my childhood, I just remember my family a lot because I was always at home with my family. Yes, I played in the streets like everyone else. I did all that I need to do and those types of things. So for me, I feel like the most pivotal moment in my childhood was the time spent with my grandmothers and my cousins, right? So my cousin was basically like my best friend, right? And most of my time was spent with her and my grandmother. So both my grandmothers.
It's a different cousin.
Yes, by the way. Yeah. It's a different cousin. And my grandmother actually, my phone is actually going off. I need to put it on.
Apologies.
Sorry about that, but yes, people just want to get a hold of us.
Phones are buzzing.
You know? Yeah. But anyway, I think back to the point was that I spent a lot of time with my grandmothers, and I think that turned me into a nurturer and one of the biggest things of understanding my love languages. And I feel like how I show up in people's lives is because of that pivotal moment in my life. I spent a lot of time with them understanding how to take care of myself, number one, but also how to be around other people. And I think, the way you are raised really, really says a lot about how you interact with other people, how you move around in the world. And I think one of the biggest thing that I remember, and maybe I won't do this for my kids as well, but my great-grandmother, who is actually 98 this year, and she is still alive, love you so much, Umma. She would make sure that my cousin and I are up at 6 a.m. Rono casta oil.
Wait, every day?
No, every holiday.
Like every holiday, okay.
Every holiday, whether you like it or not, it's either about peita or uira. So what is peita in English?
I don't know.
I wish I knew.
I don't know. There's a fancy word for it now, but it's basically like a colon cleanse. Yes, that's what they call it now.
But we don't want to get very graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think now I understand it as an adult that it's so important to do a colon cleanse, like detox, make sure that your stomach is clean. So little things like that really, really, really were life-changing for me. And when I look back, I feel like I wouldn't want to spend my life differently. And I think I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I'm able to show up for my friends in the way I do, because that's how I love to love. So I think that was one of my biggest, life lessons when I was a child, not realizing that it will, mold me into this type of person.
Yeah, I think you saying that is so interesting because I always feel like you have such an old soul.
Yeah, I really do.
Like every now and then, Lethabo will just be like, I feel like what I'm wearing is like too revealing or whatever. Like sometimes she'll just sound like, there's a granny in her ear. So it's actually, it makes sense.
No,
that you grew up with a lot of older people, Yeah. And that's something I think a lot of us can relate to. If you lived with like a great grandma, the same way ratante.
Yeah.
Like we love tea, guys. We drink tea.
No, we take it to the next level.
Yeah, like we drink tea. Yeah, so it's probably, that.
It's one of those things.
With your grand. That's a great memory.
Yeah, I think obviously there's other memories, but I think, the one thing that I remember the most. Yeah. And for you?
For me, okay, mine isn't as happy.
Okay, let's get into the dark times.
Let's get dark. No, it's not as happy. But I think my childhood, and I actually struggled so much to think about my childhood, like when I was doing that meditation thing, because I don't think I remembered much, right? But I think something that was really big that happened when I was 8 years old is that I actually met my biological dad, right? So, what a time. I remember my mom sitting me down and saying that, listen, there's this person who is in your life, but actually, you do have like a biological father, and it's this person, and just like you, to meet them, and they are interested in meeting you, So that happened. I was 8 years old. I remember being so excited, and I think I didn't understand what it was. I didn't at all, but I was excited because it just felt like, oh, this is interesting. Like, something different, you know? Yeah, so I was excited.
Seeing my dad, nyana.
Yeah.
A male figure.
Yeah, but what's funny is that I didn't even feel like I had that gap. You know, it's not like there was this void in my life and I was always questioning if I have a father. Definitely not. Like, that's not something I was going through at that age, you know? But it was just interesting. Cool. So then I met him. Yeah, I met him. It's fine. You know, that happened. But then why I feel like it influenced so much of my time during that period is like, I feel like I asked a lot of questions to my mom, that is, you know, I asked a lot of questions about that whole situation, what led to it. And I kind of felt like that was the beginning of me growing up. And it was the beginning of rejection.
Sorry,
I think that's what it was. Did it hit you? No.
My heart was just like...
Yeah, but it was just that. I think it was just like the rejection that I felt during then.
Yeah.
Probably informed so much. Not even probably. It informed so much of my life going forward. And I can say this looking back. I didn't recognize it at the time, you know. But I think the anger that I felt towards him throughout, you know, my life, even continuing, I feel like that was the source. That's when I became angrier, you know, at the world, at him. That's when I even became aware of how my friends had different dynamics at home. I'd never noticed, you know, but suddenly now I was like, no, man. So you have like a mom and a dad and I don't, and mine's there, but he's just choosing not to show up, you know?
It's so, I think when you're relaying the story now, I obviously share the same sentiments. I think we have a more or less similar story. Yeah. And you hit a nerve, I must say. And I also remember like at school, in primary, where like it would be Father's Day and people are like, compiling the cards, and I never saw the need. But I'd get home and ask my mom, can I also do a Father's Day card? But my mom was like, okay, to who? Where are you taking it? But she wouldn't shut down the idea. Or she wouldn't shut down the idea. Or she'd be like, oh, do it for your uncle, because my uncle
was that father figure.
Was a father figure for me and still is, you know. So
and that was beautiful of him to show up like
100%. That. I think for me, like you're saying, I never felt the gap because my uncle was always there. And we've always had uncles that really make sure that they nurture us as well in that direction. Of course, in close proximity, it's required. But I think for me, like you're saying, it cuts deep at a point because you realize that, okay, you are somewhat rejected. You are not wanted in this way.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he can be able to, you know, fulfill a certain capacity to other people, but not for you. And I think
that was so interesting, right? That, so this person is capable.
Yes.
Just not for me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And navigating being chosen, like, it's so hard.
Yeah. I will say, now I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know? I will say now I'm fine. But then, those were rough feelings to deal with at like 8-9 years old.
What understanding do you have?
It was rough. I remember, and I know my mom watches this. Hi, Mom. I don't think she knows that I know. There was a time in somewhere around that age, you know, like you're saying, you just reminded me with like the Father's Day cards, you know, and I remember writing a Father's Day card. And because of I'd now met this person in my life who pretty much said, oh, I'm going to be here, and they weren't, I wrote such angry things on that card. And I was literally like, you know, happy Father's Day to the worst father ever, all of those stuff. And I didn't say anything about it, you know, just wrote it at school, whatever, went home. I don't know where my mom found it, but literally a few years later, I found it somewhere. She had like files or something, or like, you know, the photo album. And I found that note, and I was like so hurt on her behalf. What a shame. Can you imagine as a mom finding out that your young kid is dealing with those kind of feelings and knowing that there's nothing that you can do about it? I was like, that must be rough.
But also she's helpless in the situation.
That's what I'm saying. It must be so rough. Like when she saw that, I I saw it. Now you know. I know that you know. Yeah. But yeah. So I think that during my childhood was like a big one.
Yeah.
But not to get too depressing. So maybe let's move on to teens. let's move on.
But mine is somewhat depressing as well, but I'm probably going to, share it in a very light-hearted manner. I dealt with a lot of, and I think it ties into rejection as well. So because I spent a lot of time in the house, a lot of people used to make fun of me growing up because I was very tall, like for a toddler, and like, just growing up 8, 9, you're very tall. But I still couldn't play like other kids. Like I wouldn't always win, or, so I'd always immerse myself in like lyric writing, music book stuff, like, or like collections of home choice books, and like put your
choice.
Well, like I used to do like my grandma used to get home choice catalogs, like magazine thing, and then we'd put the doll inside there, cut the, it's just the whole thing. So I was always at home doing creative stuff like that. And growing into my teenage years, remember now you're going into high school, you're meeting different people. You're no longer in primary school where every day I'm with my cousins. I'm exposed to new people. Now you need to understand more people. More people have an opinion on you. So my first day in high school was literally like just people mocking me, and mostly boys, by the way. And I think that also made me feel like I am not pretty. Or like I felt like, okay, not that being pretty is important, but I think just the whole sense of validating yourself. I didn't feel validated enough, but also that ties into your father issues, like daddy issues. I don't want to say daddy issues because I don't have daddy issues. I think I've healed from them, but like those issues where you need a male figure to always make you feel like, okay, you are enough. You are chosen. I love you. I think when you get to school and people continuously mock you, because of course in primary people make
and this was your height, right?
Yeah. Okay. But now it goes to my teeth, and like it's like, oh, you look like the great Kali, and it was like for the longest time I had to deal with that. And I never wanted to take pictures, but I always took pictures, and I never posted them, or I would never directly say,
okay, welcome back. We're just saying
Hey,
yeah, no, one of the laptops are dying, so we're cool now. Yeah.
And where was I? I was still...
You were talking about being mocked and like, for appearance, and how that was affecting your self-esteem.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that really influenced how I saw myself. And I think at the time I was also befriending a popular group of people where they were, for me at the time, conventionally pretty. Like they looked amazing. And then I come into the picture. I'm the tall one. I'm the odd one out. There was a lot of pressure. And I felt like, okay, how do I navigate this? So I'd always be on social media, but like I would never feel like my pictures are like a reflection of me, or I'd feel like if people say I'm ugly in person, does that not mean I'm also ugly in the images that they see of me? So if someone was to see a picture of me on Twitter or whatever, I'd feel like they'd say to me, oh, you're a catfish, you don't look like your pictures. Like when I go to like what is that event that we went to? Girls High
Spring Fair.
Yeah, and I was a Twitter person at the time as well, and people would say, oh, you don't look like your pictures. Lethabo doesn't look like her pictures, and that really killed my spirit. And for a long time, I never felt like I was pretty. I didn't feel like, I felt like everything else was just a lot for me in terms of how people look at me, how people, perceive me, and it was uncomfortable. And I think now looking back, it was so unfair. Because people don't choose how they look. I didn't get to choose, some of the things that I have. I can't change that, But obviously now I feel great about myself. I know I look amazing, and I wish I had the support to not make me feel worse, about how I look. And I think that's one thing I will definitely offer to my child, whether girl or boy. I think it's very important that you understand
that they're beautiful,
yes,
yeah.
and you don't have to look like someone to be beautiful. And I think that is the biggest thing for me in my teenage years, not living a life of a catfish. I didn't want to feel like I don't look like myself. But after years, I think when I turned 20, I was like, whatever, man. Like, this is how I look. Mock me or not, this is just what you're gonna get. But it took such a long time, Nahana, like between your 12 and your 20.
Those are like proper, like, formative years. Like, that's
Exactly.
they're important. I think, and obviously we've talked about this before, but it's always so surprising
I know.
to me. But I think also, like, I wasn't in your high school, so I wouldn't have been around the people who were teasing you or who were whatever. So when in my mind, and I'm sure everybody watching this just feels like you're such a beautiful person, that it feels like a conventionally attractive person, that it's so interesting that you had to battle with like certain things. But yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me because, like, for example, I feel like I always had to overcompensate for that reason. I had to be overly nice to people even when they were, mistreating me, because I felt like, okay, since I'm not the pretty one in the group, I have to be the caring one. I have to be the supporter. I have to be all these other things amongst my friends, and they'll make up for everything else, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And
this, sorry?
And not to say that they didn't validate me. One thing about them, they did, but it still didn't register. So that probably ties into, your childhood or the things that you valued when you were a child. Because I don't think, the people that were raising me cared about those things,
And different generation.
100%.
And I think this is like a great example of what we're saying, what the purpose of what we're talking about is, right? That going back to these moments, what you need to do, and this may be hurtful, especially if it's stuff that really felt dark, but it's really important that you're able to go back and say, what was 15-year-old Lethabo feeling in that moment? And that's what helps you actually realize that, when I actually get anxious around people, or when I feel the need to shrink when I'm around other people, it's what 15-year-old Lethabo was feeling.
Yes.
And then now that you've pinpointed where those feelings come from, that's where you can take the necessary steps to actually overcome those. Yeah. So I think that's...
And I think, making sure that you develop in a way that is good for your mental health is also important. And I think obviously you cannot channel children to what you're exposed to, because also at the time, remember, it was Instagram times. Those were things that we were like now getting into. So validation was like now about other people and no longer about yourself. So there's a lot that happened. But, I think it's great to say that I know where I'm at, I know what I look like, and I don't care what people say about me.
And you feel beautiful still, though.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know that. But I think it's just very important to not care about what people think.
100%. Yeah.
And
as
for
long
you?
as you feel that way.
Teenagers?
For my teens, for me, this is something that I feel like a lot of people went through probably in varsity or post, whatever. And mine was in high school, where I had to let go of academic validation. So I was one of those kids, ka primary, was always like top 3, I was getting my 90s and 100s all the time. So that was my identity. I'm the smart kid. Then I get into high school. My high school I feel like was on a different academic level. This is my primary school. It was, right?
Yes.
This is my primary school. And suddenly I was like, okay, school is serious here. And, and I'm saying this because I feel like I made it through primary fairly easy. Like I don't think there's a part in my life where I can say, here I was hardworking. I don't know. So cool. Then I settle in grade 8, grade 9, it's fine. Going into grade 10, I was ready to go the math physics route. I was doing this. Then in grade 10, I started feeling like, I don't know if this is for me, So long story short, I changed subjects. At some point, I was like completely far from like physics and stuff, but I still kept math, Then my marks just started going down. my marks started going down, probably maybe grade 11 and matric. Not down to the point where I was like down and out, but that's only because of I knew what I needed to do to get into varsity. And luckily, I ended up studying what I wanted to study, So I knew that was it. But for me, they were like they were getting really bad, And when I look back, I feel like that was when I had a long depressive episode, There was just a lot going on at home, and I don't think I was able to navigate what my feelings were, and that's not really something that we talked about as much as we could have, like with my mom. And I feel like she was also going through a lot at that time. So, probably there was a bit of emotional neglect there, and I just went in a downward spiral. I feel like I changed my friends. I had different friends. It was in a different I started meeting different people, and it just started feeling like I was trying to now find who's Mokgadi without Mokgadi being the exceptional student,
academic.
Yes, the academic. So I think that's what I went through in my teens. It was quite difficult to deal with, but at the same time, I'm so glad I learned how to fail early.
100%.
I'm so glad that didn't happen later for me, because when I got to varsity, funny enough, I did so much better academically because I didn't have that burden of, I need to make my mom proud. I need to listen. I knew I was passionate about this thing. I know for me to get through it, I need to do this. It was just that for me, without the heaviness or the burden of academic validation, without, and I remember a lot of people, even my one aunt said that, I won't lie, I was quite shocked when you went to varsity. I really thought you were going to be like one of those people who says, I'm going to do medicine or whatever. Frankly, I wouldn't have gotten in, but yes, there was quite a big change over like those 2-3 years where I went, Girile become marketing. So I went quite creative, but still corporate because BCom, but like quite creative. So that was like a really big theme over that period where I actually had to know who I was outside getting hundreds.
You know what? I think you and I probably went through the same journey though. The reason why I always say that is because we went to the same school. And funny enough, I started in the school where you ended up, remember?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So, and then I came to the school where you were, and I can attest to there being a difference, right?
Okay, so my high school had a primary and high school. Lethabo was there for primary.
Yes.
And then she went to the primary I was in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we always have to give context.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when I also got to high school, I felt the difference. Math was extremely difficult.
And they started adding alphabets to math.
But now the thing is that a lot of the students already knew. So it was almost like, okay, is there something wrong with the school that I come from? Because I don't understand this. Where are we going? And I struggled. I really struggled with math. Excelled in accounting, shockingly. But when I got to grade 10, it was crickets. So there were a lot of this. There was just like a bit of an imbalance, which I'm glad as well that I went through that. But I think I wasn't too sad about it because I was still a good student, but I think I wasn't a top achiever, and I was still okay with that. Okay. But getting to varsity, I went through the same thing where now you know that you don't have to make sure that you're making everyone proud, but you end up doing it because it's for you. You're making sure that you're passing at the standard.
Because it's your passion now, honestly.
So I think it makes sense that you're saying that, letting go of academic validation, you need to. Because you're doing it for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's for no one else.
We'll probably talk it on a different episode, né? We'll talk on a different one. But about academic validation, I saw some girl on TikTok and she's talking about how academic validation has worked out so well for her because that's why she's got 1, 2, 3 at this age. And what about your mental health though?
Exactly.
Is all that I was thinking. Hore, obviously, guys, there's like positive to it, right? It does give you certain things and fully, right? I'm not saying now don't care about your academic, but it's very important to know that you are more than your academics.
100%.
You are more than just getting certain marks. Like, there's more to you. You need to live a holistic life. You need that balance. It can't just be, even when you get to varsity, all you do is just be in the library all day, every day. It's also about the social experience. It's about going out, find out what you like, what you don't like. Like, it's bigger than that. That's just all I mean. That, like, it's a big portion, but there's more. There's so much more to it. Yeah,
and I definitely agree. I think a lot of people tend to hide behind their academics, and then you figure out that there's a lot of things that social anxieties that they are, dealing with, and they are not exposed to it because they're in the house or they're constantly studying. They can't deal with people. You have an OCD that you need to treat because you're always,
Now you're also not street smart. That's the other thing that I feel like people are not street smart because of that. And now suddenly life comes, you need to learn how to, for lack of a better word, hupanda, and you just don't know how because all you've ever done is just books.
And it's such a great point that you're mentioning. I literally, and I think this is my biggest ache, and we can literally talk about it on another episode. I do not like people who are book smart and then end up making you feel like they are smarter than you because you are smarter in another way. I think a lot of us bring a lot of things to the table. And I think, first of all, up there's emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Which some people tend to
downplay.
And it's very important in every conversation you have. For us to even be here, it's because of our emotional intelligence. And I feel like people who are smart or who are
academically,
on that level, they feel like they can look down on you because you don't know how to say a certain word, or you can't pronounce things a certain way, or you don't know what neocolonialism, what is it? That's what it is. You don't know like small definitions of small things like that or big things like that. So I feel like it's very important for yourself to understand yourself outside of your academics, outside of the things that you're immersing yourself in.
Be a better person, man.
But get to know yourself. Don't be your books only. But this is not the topic today.
That's a different one.
Right. So I think we can get into our 20s. Yeah. So I think the most pivotal moment in my 20s, which is still currently, we have not reached 30 yet, but was meeting my sisters. And this actually all happened in 2023, like back to back. And I met not physically, but context, right? So my father's from Ghana and my sisters currently stay in Ghana. So I met my youngest sister who was 17 in September, like literally a few weeks before my birthday. And I feel like, that was I felt like it was a moment for me to understand myself better. And getting to know someone who is of the same blood as you or basically looks the same. Literally, my sisters are the same shoe size as me. They have the same morning issues that I have in the morning. They sleep, but like we're the same. If I was to tell you I was to bring my sister here, you'd say, okay, this is Lethabo. And I think that is what I needed. A sense of understanding, a sense of belonging. And for so long, because I said I felt like an outcast growing up, like during my teen phase, right now I am finally fulfilled. I know who I am. I understand where I come from. I know who I look like, so I don't have to fit in because they are my people. They exist. So I think that was my biggest revolutionary moment because I felt like, okay, I've always wanted this. But I never knew I needed it, and I think I feel safe in understanding myself. I feel safe in understanding them. Literally getting to know them is getting to know myself.
That's beautiful.
And it's healed me so much. And I think I am at a point where I understand myself better. I understand the things that are happening around me. I just needed that thing. It's like almost like you need a cherry on top before things can make sense for you. And that was the cherry on top for me. Meeting my sisters, getting to know them still, developing a relationship. We still have a lot of work. We still have a lot to unpack, to still talk about. But I must say, those two girlies, the love of my life.
I think that's so beautiful because especially when you talked about some of the stuff that you felt like you were teased about, like your height and obviously what comes with it. And for you to have constantly felt like you're exotic looking and all of these stuff, and to finally actually be like, oh no, here are these people. That's beautiful.
And I think what made it even better is that I'm experiencing my sisters in South Africa. So my sister flew out. She was here for some work stuff, and she was like, hey, let's hang out. And I spent a couple of days with her, and walking with her in the mall felt like I was walking with myself. I wasn't looking around, she was right there. I wasn't feeling like I'm too tall. She was literally, she's slightly shorter, but she's just as tall. And I feel amazing. It feels great to know that, and this is why it's important to always understand that you will always find your people.
Yeah.
Whether it's your siblings, your friends, you will always find your tribe. And I think, I don't know, maybe it was meant to happen, but like it was almost like I was searching for myself, but it came to me naturally. I didn't go looking for my sisters. They literally naturally said, hey, I'm your sister. So those are the things, and I think it's very important to always find a sense of where you are, who you are, what you're about, where you come from, so that you also feel whole. You don't feel incomplete, and I think that is what I needed.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And for you?
For me, so my 20s, I feel like have been the best decade yet. I've been so much happier. That's like definitely there. I've been so much happier in my 20s, just versus other times. It's been a lot sharp. All of the stuff that I'm talking about, I had to deal with it, and healing and whatever. All of the stuff needed to happen in my 20s. But I feel like it was the first time, I suppose that's also the only time I'm capable of, but it was the first time I felt like I'm taking control of my life, and I found a way to, like, it's about me. And it felt like every step that I take, everything is towards me, and that was just so freeing. It was just so freeing. It was so liberating that right now when I think about it, but there's still stuff that I can like still worry about and stress about. I'm still figuring things out, but I really feel like I've never felt more like myself than I do right now. Like it feels good. It's confusing. It's been roller coaster. There's been so many different things, but all of it, I feel like I've just been welcoming it as, let's see what tomorrow brings. Let's see what else, it's really been a decade of hope. It's been a decade of hope, of joy, and there's just so many stuff that I've been intentional about, like cultivating communities, trying out things that I would have always felt like, this isn't really my thing. But yeah, I think that's been really amazing for me. The beginning of my 20s, I was obviously in varsity as well. So like we talked about academic and stuff, varsity went a lot easier for me. So like varsity was easier. So that felt like, okay, here's something else that I don't need to worry about, and then work as well, relationship, like so much happened, but everything just felt right. Like there's nothing that I felt like could have happened any other time.
I want to say that it's such a nice feeling to have been a part of that, right? And I understand the difference that you're saying, that you feel like you've been your happiest, and I'd like to attest that you've been your happiest. And I think knowing you before, and I feel like as teenagers we go through our own things, motions, sense of understanding of self. So like there's a lot of things that happen in the background that people don't know about.
Yeah.
But I think it is safe to say that experiencing you in your 20s has been life-changing.
Like a rebirth.
Yeah, it's been life-changing because I think also you being happy, it spreads to other people, and I can say that your joy has made me happy as well. And I think I feed off of energies a lot, and I think that is the biggest energy that I fed off of.
Yeah.
Like I've told you that so many of the times that I literally look up to you as my cousin, like as my friend, as my confidant. I know I can hold your hand and say, okay, you are the person that I can go with, and I think your 20s have been an example of that. And I think you should be happy, and I think you deserve the happiness that you are currently living within.
Thank you.
Yes.
And what I love about this is, you've touched on it, that it doesn't mean everything has been linear. It doesn't mean everything has happened how I've wanted it to be. But I've been okay. I've been okay. So I think if I were to bring it down to just one moment, it was literally therapy. I feel like everybody who goes to therapy says this, but I'm one of them. Yeah. I am. It was that. Like, it was like, I just met a new Mokgadi. I met a new Mokgadi. There's still stuff that I still struggle with and whatever. And I feel like with all of the tools that I've been equipped with, I'm confident that whatever's still coming, I'm going to find a way to navigate it. Yeah. I'm not going to, if I struggle, I'm going to go back to therapy and deal with it there. So I think that's what my 20s have been about. I'm glad that we're ending it on a good note.
Yeah.
Because sometimes little deep it had. But yeah, so so I think maybe we can end it off, right? Maybe let's chat about what's a good one? Like a mantra or like a big takeaway, Like what do you feel like, while I think about mine, what do you feel like is your biggest takeaway?
I'm not forgetting thinking about yours.
Oh yeah, well you answer.
But I think mine has to be, you are not who you are perceived to be, right? You are not who someone else deems you to be. You are who you say you are. And I think that is my biggest takeaway for, my life. From my childhood to my teenage years to my 20s. Hopefully maybe I have a different mantra for my 30s, but I fully believe that I am not the people. I'm not the person people say I am. I am who I say I am. I am not the hurt that I experienced. I am not the mockery that I've experienced. And I feel good saying that. And that is my biggest takeaway.
That's amazing. I love how you said that I am not, because sometimes when you're delving into these things that you've gone through or whatever, it's very easy to sound like that's who you are. Yes. You're just aware that you've gone through that, but it's not who you are.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think overthinking puts us in those positions where now you're in a horrible state of mind because you think you are what someone else deems you to be because they treated you a certain way. It's about them.
Yeah.
So it's also about not taking things personally.
Definitely.
Which is my biggest thing for 2024. Like, I don't want to I don't want to take things personally because I feel like that is literally why I don't see myself, because I'm too focused on other people's opinions. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it all go.
I think mine is, it's a lot more simple. It's literally just that it's not that deep.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's not that serious. It's not that deep. Guys, it's not. And that just, like, I'm not sweating the small stuff. I'm not living in comparison of, and not even of other people, but I'm not living in comparison of the plans and dreams that I had for myself. I'm just like, okay, cool, I would have loved that to happen in Jan, but if it happens in June, that's okay. Yeah. So just doing my part to, just exist. Just doing my part. I'm still putting in effort into the things that I love, but a lot of things are just really not that deep, and I just don't want to sweat the small stuff anymore. I'm so much happier that way.
That doesn't mean she's nonchalant. Don't get it wrong.
Maybe, but I love that.
And I think it's great. I think it's very important to be able to just be discerning in your life, when it comes to those types of things. Don't take things too seriously, too hard, because also that's a definition of yourself. It says a lot about you.
Yeah. So honestly, it's not that deep.
But yeah.
Okay, so this brings us to the end. Yes. We already said our thank yous in the beginning, but we'll say thank you again because you also got through this one. So really appreciate the support. Please keep sharing so that this grows and the community grows. The next one will be more lighthearted by popular demand. It'll be a lot more lighthearted. So we're looking forward to that as well. So look out for that.
Yes, like, subscribe, comment, do the whole thing, and also email us your thoughts. You can be anonymous. Just let us know what you would like for us to change, and also just general commentary on our podcast. What my cousin said is not only about just the two of us; it's about building a community and making sure, as cousins, siyakhuluma, siyathetha, rabulela, But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Tune in to the next one. Cheers.
Love you guys.